Hi, welcome to Chad Silversmithing. First, thanks for coming to my channel. I appreciate you visiting. If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button before you leave, that helps the channel quite a bit by helping YouTube to find it and promote it. Before we started, I wanted to thank a couple of groups. My YouTube subscribers have recently passed 4,100, which is great, and I'm really pleased with the growth of the channel. Thank you all for your support and your contributions and your nice comments and suggestions. I really appreciate those things. The other group is my patrons over on Patreon. I've got the group is growing. I'm up to over 40 patrons over there. We have a community that's kind of nice, and we share ideas, and I do exclusive tutorials for them and stuff. So thank you guys. I really appreciate your support over there. You guys are really helping out a lot. So thank you for that. Today I'm going to do a pendant piece, and it's going to have a marquise shaped green tourmaline that I have had for a long time, and I think I'm going to put some Tanzanites with it, which is a weird color combination, but we'll see how it turns out. I'm going to kind of repeat that marquise shape in the pendant over and over again, so that it kind of gives it kind of a good composition, hopefully, and we'll see how that comes out. So let's get started on this project. Let's see what we have here. So, find a little stone grabber. Here's the tourmaline. My little stone grabber is sort of notorious for shooting things off the table, so a little leery of grabbing this with that. I hope you can see that. It's a nice little kind of forest green tourmaline I've had for a while. And I'm going to have a couple of these Tanzanites, just little cabs. I think they're 3.5 millimeters. I think the stone is 3 by 9 or 3 by 8 or something like that. So I thought I'd try those as accent stones. We were thinking about doing some just clear CZs, but I think I'm going to go with the purple. You know, sometimes you got to live dangerously. So I'll show you what I drew up in my little design book here. If you're interested, these are available in the merch store. They got nice kind of graph paper that doesn't have the lines but just the corner points. So they're kind of nice for drawing out your ideas. So I'm going to have some interlocking circle kind of things going on. And let me point here. This will be where the tourmaline is, right here. And then here's going to be a Tanzanite. Here's a Tanzanite. This is going to be a piece of silver 18 gauge sheet that I kind of dome a little bit. So it's kind of a domed marquise. And we'll put those in there. I'll make a custom bail for it that has a marquise shape to it. And then these central wires will be 16 gauge round wire. I think I'm going to use 14 gauge square for the outside. So I think let's start with the bezels. We need to make these two, and we need to make that one. And then we'll start putting together the other components. So I think for this marquise, in order to, since I'm going to bezel set it, I'm going to use 28 gauge fine silver bezel rather than the 26 that I've been using lately. Just because it's a little bit thinner and easier to work with when you're making little fine corners and stuff. So let me flatten this out. This is 3/16 inch tall, so it's really tall bezel. And that's usually what I keep around just in order to have something that's tall enough for most stones, but something you can also file down if you need to. Okay, I think I'm not gonna do the end of this at one of these sharp points. That wouldn't work very well for making a bezel. So I want it to be in the middle of the side somewhere. So I'm gonna make a sharp bend, you know, about half the length of the stone in. And I'm going to kind of manually curve it a little bit. Mostly I want to get it in there tight enough to where I can see where to make the second bend. Trying to get you to be able to see size-wise where we're at. this side it's looking a little snug, so I'm going to back this off just a tiny bit. I think making bezels for marquise is kind of challenging. You don't have a lot of leeway for making mistakes when you're this shape. I'm not going to give myself too much extra because I think I had a little extra space to deal with already. I don't want it to be too big. Now I'm just going to reshape it a little bit, see how we are in size and everything. I think that looks pretty good. I just need to widen it a little bit. Okay, so I need to make a little platform for the stone to sit on in this thing. And I think I'm going to use 18 gauge round wire. Get a little piece split around here. Normally I would just make it like a jump ring and try and bend it really sharply, but this one's pretty tight cornered, so I'm going to make little football shaped pieces of wire by taking two curved pieces and soldering them together after I flatten out the end, so we can get it something close to that curve. Something I can do is, oops, yeah, that's right. If you look at the curve of the marquee, is kind of like a portion of a circle, so if I make some rings out of silver of that size of a circle and then snip off pieces of it, it will have about the right curve, if that makes any sense. So let's find something that's about that size. That'll probably produce a ring that's about right. So let's try that. I think that's about the right size, so I'm going to cut 4 of those. Alright, so now I'm going to file the ends of these so they're kind of all in the same plane. Kind of hard to do it on these small ones, but because basically I want these to be soldered together like that. You definitely want to make sure it sits in there flat. We'll flux it and I'll just plop it onto that pile. And then it should flow up into that the base of the bezel there where the wires are in contact with it. file the bottom flat. Okay, one bezel down. Now we need to make bezels for these little pieces of Tanzanite, which are little tiny, tiny cabochons. Let's see, what was that? I think I'll use the same stuff, but I'm going to make it shorter. I didn't cut that very straight. That's all right. Kind of manually shape it like that before you put it down over the stone. Well, if you need to, you can shape it a little bit more with pliers. If you got big clumsy fingers like me. There's that one. Okay, I think probably I'll probably do those ones open back as well. In my mind I was thinking I was going to do closed back, but I guess it looked better probably with open backs. File the bottoms of those flat. Set those to the side for the moment. Take a look at our drawing. I think probably should use this as a guide to make these little circles here. I'm going to make these inside ones out of 16 gauge. So if I wrap it around this, it'll get me pretty close to that one because it's going to spring out a little bit. So let's make a couple of these. Almost sprung back to that size, pretty close. So let's see. What if we made them just slightly bigger? Let's try this one. This is the next one up. I use the dapping punches more to wrap stuff around than to do anything else with. That's more what I was thinking. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder them both to try and get them exactly the same in shape and everything. And then I'm going to cut a piece out of one of them so we can interlock them. Alright, so I think I have to make smaller circles because this doesn't quite match the curves of the marquise like I would like. So I'm going to cut them a little bit shorter and see if that works. I think that's close enough. Alright, so I need to mark where those two meet so that I can cut them at the right spot. Let's do this. Sometimes you have to make it so you can actually see the mark a little better. I'm going to cut about the thickness of the wire out of there too, just so it kind of adjusts for that. So I'm going to solder this to the inside of that ring first, and then we'll see if we can make that all fit. So I'm just going to put a little solder right there and solder these together. Doing stuff like this really isn't hard. It's just, you know, you gotta take the time to measure things out a little bit more if you're piecing things together. A little more carefully than I generally do. Stuck that one down to the pad with the flux. It's sitting a little crooked in there, so I'm going to see if I can't get that to sit better. The way to do that is to heat it up to the point where all that solder flows again, and then I should be able to nudge it. I think that looks a little more symmetrical. It was tilted off to one side just slightly, so to look at our picture again. So we've got this part done, and so I guess opposite of each other I need to solder on those other bezels. I could do that next, or I could do the inner parts next. Doesn't really matter, I guess. I think I'm going to do the inner parts though. And I think maybe for this inner one, I'm going to use 18 gauge round for the smaller loop, just to give me more options. I think that'll look good. So let's find some 18 and make the smaller loops out of those. This one's a little smaller than this one. Okay, let's see if we can get those to work. I'm going to stretch them just a tiny bit though, because they're a little small. Okay, we got these guys now. We need to create those little football shaped or marquee shaped pieces that go in there, and I was going to use a little bit of 14 gauge I had laying around here. So what we can do is, let's see, probably, let's see about, so maybe if we use this curve here as the, let's try that. Okay, so I'm going to cut that shape out, but I need 2 of those, and I might make a little bit bigger one for the bail. Let's see. That looks pretty good. I'll use this as a template for the second one. I went ahead and cut out 2 small ones to use in these spots here, and then 2 bigger ones to use as the bail, and I'll have to do a little fine-tuning on getting these exactly the same size. I didn't get them quite the same. But I think for the bail what I'm going to do is, if I was to draw a sideways view of it, I'm going to curve both of these so they're like this. This is a side view of the bail, and I will file both the ends of these things pretty flat, but the overall thing is going to be curved like this. the hollow cavity between. And then I'm going to put some square wire in here to create a divider. That way the chain, if we flip this sideways, the chain will go through here like that. And we'll put a jump ring up here that goes through this part right there. So, and that'll be our bail. And then we will, before we do that though, actually, I'm going to dome these little guys and file them to make sure they fit right in here. And I'll probably flatten the bottoms of them so they sit flat, and then we'll solder them in. And then we'll add these bezels and do a border on a 14 gauge square wire, which I cut a piece that should be long enough to go all the way around there. So that'll be our next steps. So I'm going to go ahead and dome these guys a little bit, I think, next. Okay. We'll start with kind of a shallow one. So I need that to go in there. So let's see if I can file this bottom a little bit flat, like the points of it, right there. Let's try that and see how that goes. Somehow I got a little ball of sterling on there. Actually, not happened. So I dropped a piece on the pad by accident. There we go. Should we put those little bezels on? I think we should. So, let's make an oval piece of 14 gauge square wire here to go around this. So let's cut the end off. file the end. Square wire always has a tendency to twist on you when you're trying to bend it sharply. So I'm going to try to make sure that I keep that under control while I'm doing this. We're getting within, gosh, I hope I don't use an old-fashioned idiom, spitting distance of where we need to be. So I think I'm going to cut it off pretty close to that length. Be pretty good on size, so I'm going to go ahead and solder it, and then I'll shape it better. And add it on, and we can finish up with the bail. Been having a clumsy day today where I drop things. Not sure why that is, but some days are like that. That's close. It's a little weird over here. Have to squeeze out the weird spot. It's a weird spot on their pendant. Let's solder it on there. So I'm going to solder it in 6 spots. Right. Here, 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 and here. Trying to find the flatter spot on the pendant here. Looking pretty good so far. Alright, so these things, I'm going to bend these more into not so much of a cup shape, but more just a little bit of a curve. Basically, so I have these wide enough. I'm going to file the ends flat, put a divider in the middle, and then we should be able to run the chain and the little ring through on either side. So let me file these down a little bit. So I think the best way probably to solder a barrier in the middle would be to cut a piece of this this thick sheet. Piece right here. Maybe I can make this work. That was actually pretty good. See if I can cut some solder without shooting it everywhere this time. Okay, so we got a bale that's got 2 spots, and it looks like it's big enough for the chain to go through. I'm going to solder the ring on, not where the split is in this, but so that that's off to the side, so I can put that on there and then pick solder that pretty easily without risking soldering something to that. Alright, we got everything on there. I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the pickle for a while, and I will polish it and we'll set the stones. Okay. Apologize for my polishing here. Let's set these stones. I'm going to start with the 2 Tanzanites. Polished this, and then I filed these down to the correct height for them. And now I'm just going to do that initial stage of pushing it up against the stone. Looks like I have a little polishing compound on here still I need to get rid of. Marquise are a little hard to set. I always worry about breaking the tips off of them, so I'm going to be super gentle about this. I've filed the sharp points a little bit thinner on the bezel, so I'm hoping that I can push those in just a little bit. Give those a poke from behind to make sure they're in there. Embarrassing if the stone fell out. Okay, so I think we're just about done. I need to do a little bit of cleanup polishing around the tops of the bezels, but overall I think I'm pleased with it. It's pretty symmetrical. I could have done a little better on that, but overall I'm pleased with how this one came out. I think it's pretty, kind of like the purple and green together. I wasn't sure whether I would, but I think I do. It's kind of interesting. All right. I'll take some better pictures and put them at the end of the video. All right, that was the marquee pendant. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. I really appreciate your support in that way. If you'd care to support the channel in any other ways, you should visit the video description. You can buy me a coffee if you just want to give me a tip for my time. You can check out my Patreon and maybe consider signing up for one of the tiers there. The lowest tier features Basically just the same content, no ads. The second tier up, you start getting some voting power on upcoming projects and things like that, as well as exclusive tutorials, and then it goes from there on up. So check those out. There's also a link to my merch store, as well as my website where you can purchase some of the jewelry you see me make here. Check those out, visit them, buy my jewelry. You know, you deserve it. So thanks for watching. Happy silversmithing. Take care.